Hey everybody, welcome. Big aloha. I'm Natalie. This is Life After a Cult, the channel where we expose cult nonsense. We laugh at the absurdity and hopefully unbrainwash ourselves in the process. You guys, Scientology is having a full-blown meltdown, and today we're dragging everyone into the daylight. From the Masterson family's dirty laundry to Clearwater finally standing up to the cult. You got Streets LA putting LA Mayor Bass on blast. It's messy, it's juicy, and honestly, it's long overdue. So let's get into all this stuff here because Scientology cracks are showing and we're here for the full collapse when it does come. Welcome everybody in the live chat. Thank you for being here. And thank you moderators for helping out today. If you're on the replay, hello. Go ahead and put your comments and questions in the comments and I'll go through afterwards and try and grab some of those if you have any questions. All right, everybody, what are we going to jump into first? Okay, first though, there is, oh my gosh, somebody sent me this and I was like, this was so bizarre. There's, I love Scientology is my primary focus of cults, but there's this video that Summer Sanchez did. I absolutely love her content. If you're not watching her, check it out. I'm going to link this down below with everything that we're talking about today. But she did this video called The Disturbing Story of a Secretive Cult-Like Church. And I think it's full-blown cult. I don't know about cult-like. I'm going to show you a snippet and link it down below because if you're craving some other cult content, this was a good one. Let's just listen to a clip.
Jane seems to be basically untouchable. And her secretive, disturbing church, which is considered a cult by most, is still active today. Hey everyone, I'm sorry that it's been forever. This case took me a really long time to put together. There is so much information about this organization. Today we are talking about the Word of Faith Fellowship led by Pastor Jane Whaley. And like I said in the intro, there are literal decades worth of horrific allegations about this church. They have been accused of pretty much anything you can think of: abuse, mind control, kidnapping, human trafficking. There have even been deaths associated with this church. And the leader, Jane Whaley, might look like a sweet little old lady, but this woman is scary.
She's scary, y'all. She is scary. I watched this and I was like, she could be talking about Scientology. Crazy, but it is a good one. Again, if you're really into the cult content like I am, you're going to want to check it out. Don Glove saw it. I watched that last night and almost sent it to you. Definitely a cult. I know she's all cult-like. I'm like, I was 5 minutes in, not even that. And I was like, girl, this is a full-blown cult. This isn't cult-like. This is a cult. Oh, a little reminder, we do have a question of the day today, and it is, if Clearwater asked you for advice, what would you tell them to do next about Scientology? We are going to be talking a little bit about the city of Clearwater and, Scientology trying to buy their street and all that stuff and save the garden. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. But if you're on the replay, get in those comments. If the city of Clearwater asked you for advice, what would you tell them to do next about Scientology? All right, now let's go take a look at what Liz Gale was doing. We've talked about here on my channel the emotional tone scale because L. Ron Hubbard in all of his genius came up with this chart, or somebody did, in Scientology, and it's got these little creatures on it. You're going to see it in Liz Gale's video, and she covers the tone scale, the emotional tone scale. And there's a lot of things that are in here that I think a lot of you might not be familiar with. You may have heard of the tone scale. We have anger, or, at the top, it goes up to tone 40 and it just labels all these different emotions. But these emotions go below body death. So there's body death, but then emotions, allegedly by L. Ron Hubbard, he says, as a thetan that you can feel below there. And that's really interesting. And a little tidbit that some of you might not know. Check this out.
This may be the nichest post I ever make, but hey, when you are down a rabbit hole, that happens sometimes. This is a message for Scientologists. I mean, I don't expect anybody else to understand. Stick around if you want to give it a shot, though. Let's talk about the tone scale. I grew up with these cute little fuzzy little creatures. They are giving you a number, and the number is an emotion. In Scientology, this tone scale is everything. It is how you predict people's behavior. It's even how you would pick your boss or your wife, your spouse, your husband. And
yeah, that is very true. Scientology is full blown with this emotional tone scale. saying that they can predict behavior of people. This is the emotional tone scale where you might have heard in the book Dianetics or Science or Survival, actually, where L. Ron Hubbard said that homosexuals are deviants and so on and criminals, and that they're at 1.1 on this emotional tone scale, which is covert hostility. The person smiling, but they've got the knife behind the back.
Goal, of course, always is to be at the very top. Tone 40. That's what you're practicing when you are doing things like commanding ashtrays to stand up. Not exaggerating, that's a thing. While tone 40 is the very, very tippy top. And, you know, this is very complicated. Growing up with this system is things get worse and worse and worse. And then here you have body death at 0.0.
That's amazing. She goes on to explain, you got to check it out. I'm going to link the whole thing down below, but it is really interesting. And it's something that I kind of forgot about because I always thought, even in Scientology, right? Well, if these emotions, if a thetan is a being, just this kind of static energy, then to me, those lower emotional tones didn't really make sense. But then Elwin Hubbard would say, but you know, if you're a degraded being, you're degraded as a being, that you'll feel those. Anyway, try not to make too much sense of it because you'll just hurt your brain and your head might crack. But it is interesting. And Liz Gale did a great job on that. So I'm going to link it down below so you all can check it out. I'm scrolling and seeing some of your answers to the question of the day of what advice would you give the city of Clearwater? There's a couple of these are amazing. I'm just going to grab a couple. Abigail says, tell them to pay tax for all their buildings. I love that. Me and Taz says, I'll plead the fifth on this one. I wouldn't want anyone thrown in jail because of my advice. And Arkansas Flamingo says, pass an ordinance that if a building is not in use for a year, it must pay taxes like Connecticut. That is actually a fantastic idea. I'm going to look at some more of those as we go along here. So keep them coming. And if you're on the replay, throw them in the comments. I want to hear from you. We're going to go over now to Aaron Smith-Levin at Growing Up in Scientology. He was on fire over the weekend, did some awesome videos. This one was called Scientology Leader Gets Ultimatum. Put up or shut up. Let's see. I'm going to pull that up. This was a good one. This was juicy. I was like, uh-oh.
Follows. Now, the ultimatum isn't until the very end, but let's read his whole post, okay? Let's see what David Albritton has to say, because this is the response that he's been giving everyone who emails him about this.
And of course, David Albritton is one of the Clearwater City Council members, and he is one who initially voted to move ahead with selling Scientology the street in Clearwater. So this is very interesting now that he's putting out this ultimatum.
To all those citizens who have sent emails regarding the sale of Garden Avenue to Scientology, thank you for taking the time to share your opinions. I would probably be writing to my council member in opposition to this sale if I were not a council member and I guess we're not privy to the concept plan that Scientology shared with me privately during a meeting several months ago. First, let me share some background about myself. I was born and raised in Clearwater, and I've also raised my family here. For over 2 decades, I've been involved in efforts to make downtown Clearwater a more vibrant and better place. This has been a challenge due to Scientology. In recent years, Scientology has instructed its affiliated entities to acquire more than 185 properties, covering over 100 acres in the downtown area. Yet it provided no explanation to the city regarding the reasons for this action or its intended plans.
Isn't that funny that it got as far as it did without providing any, like really saying what you need the street for? That part it's like just sticks in my head. Don't quite understand that.
A few months ago, Scientology's chairman, David Miscavage, met with each council member individually to discuss a comprehensive plan crucial for the revitalization of downtown. This plan aims to create a vibrant space, not only for his parishioners, but for everyone in the entire community. He explained that Scientology directed parishioners to acquire many properties to facilitate their development by assembling them for developers. Let me briefly comment that what David Albritton is saying that David Miscavage admitted to in a private meeting mere months ago is 100% directly contrary to what Scientology said to the Tampa Bay Times when Scientology was asked about all of these properties, almost 200 properties at a cost of over $200 million. The Tampa Bay Times did an investigation and discovered that all these properties had been quietly and secretly acquired in cash for up to 5 or 6 times market value.
How bizarre is that? Just that alone. Again, it's like, what are you doing? Because we know how the story went, right? David Miscavige wanted a property. He didn't get his way, and he sent his people go out and buy out property like it's oxygen. I mean, it reminded me kind of Operation Snow White, right? Operation Snow White, many of you might be familiar, is Scientology infiltrated 136 government entities. They got 5,000 Scientologists to infiltrate different government entities like the IRS. And I mean, just sending out Scientology members to do this. And this was similar, where it does look like that David Miscavige, whoever, somebody in Scientology, sent all the Scientologists to go buy up all of this property. It very much gives that to me. It was going through my head when I was watching that. I'm like, oh my gosh, just sending out Scientologists to go buy up property because you want to create a monopoly, which, by the way, played Monopoly this weekend with my grandson Oliver's learning how to play Monopoly, because you're never too young to learn about real estate.
And Scientology said, what? My pearls? Us? We don't have anything to do with that. And we are offended at the implication. Scientology lies every step of the way whenever they can.
This is true. So let's move forward a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to bite my tongue there. Scientology plans to build an auditorium on its property, which borders Court Street and Garden Avenue. They also own an additional property west of Garden Avenue, extending to Fort Harrison Avenue. With the acquisition of Garden Avenue between Court Street and Franklin Street, they intend to develop a plaza at the entrance to the new auditorium. The graphic concepts presented to us for this project are a beautiful addition to the entrance of our downtown area. Yes, nothing is as wonderful of an entrance to downtown Clearwater as a massive event hall that says L. Ron Hubbard Hall on it. That's exactly the type of branding the city of Clearwater is looking for.
Can you imagine? I mean, this is going to take years if it even happens, if Scientology does follow through and build this. They've been threatening to for quite some time. That's a really good point, because when you go to a place like Clearwater, you're going on vacation. You want to go to the beach. Very few people are there for Scientology. And boom, L. Ron Hubbard Hall, which will include a museum, as I understand that. I just feel like that's just not a way to bring people into town, nor is it very, inclusive. And let's be honest, I think if you surveyed, I'm going to go out on a limb here. If you surveyed the people of Clearwater, the vast majority of them would be like, yeah, no, we definitely, we do not need this.
They have been here for 50 years, and it has been an uphill battle to revive the vibrancy. We have an opportunity to make that happen. Their parishioners have already bought the properties to make it happen.
So he's getting to the ultimatum now that the city councilman had there.
I have to once again interject. Saying that Scientology is not to blame for the initial decline of downtown Clearwater kind of misses the entire point.
I completely agree with that. And hey, Feral Cheryl, I saw you pop in.
David Albritton is saying to David Miscavige, here he goes. I have requested that Scientology make their plan public. Scientology has assured me they will unveil their concept for the new building and overall concept for the downtown at least 2 weeks before the May 17th council meeting. If that doesn't occur, I will assume that Scientology will not live up to their word, and the second reading of the sale of Garden Avenue will most likely fail. Whether you like it or not, They are constituents with the same rights as everyone living in Clearwater. They are the largest taxpayer in the downtown area, and most properties owned by affiliated entities are subject to taxation. There is a lot of misinformation surrounding this subject, so ensure the information you are hearing is accurate and reliable. We must base our decision on facts, not hearsay. Okay.
So very interesting. And it does appear that that's what he's sending out to people as well when they email him, because people, of course, have been emailing the city council being like, hey, what's happening? We are not down with this. There is a lot of confusion surrounding it, including what really is going to happen with that street and what Scientology wants. So today at 12 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to sit down and do an interview with Brooks Gibbs. You guys might remember that Brooks Gibbs was the man who stood up at the Clearwater City Council meeting and put forward a proposal for an alternative park at the same spot that Scientology wants to buy that street. So we're going to hear from Brooks Gibbs, who is heading up the Save the Garden campaign and project. I'm very excited about that. That's going to be today. If you can't catch it live at 12 p.m. Central Time today, please do catch it on the replay. I'm sure he's going to fill us in on a bunch more. What's going on behind the scenes, and most importantly, how can we help or lend some energy, whether it's time or financial? How can we help ensure that Scientology doesn't get this street, but the project that Save the Garden is proposing is I think that's an alternative that a lot of the citizens in Clearwater are much more interested in, and Scientology can still build their building if they want to. So that's going to be today. I hope you guys join for that. There is, we're going to be talking about this when I talk to Brooks today, but in case anyone who can't make it, I want you to be aware of a few things coming up. There is, here we go. On the 29th, the quarterly city council town hall meeting is an opportunity for members of the community to provide public comment to the city council for 3 minutes on any topic. And looks like it's happening at the library, and that's the address. There's also May 10th, a tentative Save the Garden rally, and May 15th, of course, the city council votes. I'm going to link this down below. You can sign up on their website at savethegarden.org to be able to put in your email, and then you can get updated and stay up to date on that. So keep an eye on that, y'all. Now let's go over and look at, you know what, before we go over to William Good and what he was doing with the mayor of LA, I got some clips that are just hilarious. It's fabulous. But I got one more clip from another video Aaron Smith-Levin did on growing up in Scientology, and some leaked documents are revealing Scientology's shocking financial fraud. And for many of us, not so shocking, but for many, absolutely shocking. Even those of us who know, like I knew about this, but more and more things come out showing the depth of the financial fraud. And between the covered up essay in Scientology and their financial fraud mess, that seems to be very likely a way that Scientology ends up getting in trouble and taken down because of that. And that's kind of the topic of the video. So let's take a look at a clip from that.
I believe the feds are eventually going to take Scientology down for. Okay. It is the sex trafficking and the bank fraud. And remember, guys, the sex trafficking occurs when it comes to an organization like Scientology, when the organization itself benefits financially from creating a closed system where sexual criminals do not get reported to the authorities, and the organization benefits from this monetarily, whether it's through not losing donations or actually gaining donations. And remember, guys, in Scientology, when someone admits to crimes like sexual assault or any of the most horrific versions of that, Scientology not only profits by not reporting this to the authorities, by not losing donations, they actually profit by making money off of the auditing and interrogations that the person has to undergo after admitting.
That is very true, because if you are the perpetrator, you're getting a security check, a confessional of some type. But even as the victim of SA, there are interrogations. You can be security checked. All of these things you pay for at your own expense. And if you're a member of the C organization or a staff member, you sign an invoice saying that if you don't fulfill your contract, you will pay for this. So one way or another, you're paying for it. But public Scientologists who are getting caught up in this, it's the same thing. They're having to pay for it. So Scientology has a financial interest in covering up SA and Scientology. Because like Aaron was saying, right, it could, if they cover it up, what they're afraid of is they're going to lose support, as they should. It's similar why any group would cover it up. But in my mind, my opinion, it's worse because Scientology then financially benefits from it. Scientology might be telling the victim even like, well, you need to get this amount of auditing or whatever to, you know, if you go and you're like, you know, I'm just really struggling with this mentally. It's like, then you're paying for auditing or more security checking. It's such a scam. It really is. Now let's go over to Scientology out at Streets LA, who is actually filming on his film, The Police Channel, which is where this is from. And he was calling out the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, multiple times on some corruption. Let's watch this.
Volunteers, but you're cutting everything that keeps.
Now, do you see this here? So the mayor, let me back it up a little bit here. This guy stops her because she was stopping at this tent here. And look here, 2 volunteer ministers right there. I'm not even sure if William Good saw them trying to, no doubt, get behind the cameras. And then there's this young man here who throughout this goes up. I think he's kind of letting her know who people are there. And I find it interesting because it kind of looked like he steered her away from the Scientologists who were standing there because she was stopping at each of these tents that were set up because it was raining. But I think that's interesting because you see the Scientologist back there. Look at that. What's he putting on gloves for? Like, what are you doing? Is he putting on gloves? He's putting on gloves. Yeah, he's putting on gloves. I wonder for what? Maybe they're handing out food?
You're increasing the police budget as crime is down with fewer cops, but yet you're increasing the police budget and you cut $35 million from sanitation and street service volunteers, but you're cutting everything that keeps the city clean.
See, in my mind, in my imagination, her handler there is saying, yeah, keep walking, keep walking. This is Scientology. Because as she should be, she's getting a lot of slack for supporting Scientology. Because as many of you know, she spoke at wasn't it the opening of when the Los Angeles organization was going to be an ideal organization? And she's just had this thrown in her face so many times. I think there's a big lesson there for politicians. You might want to pay attention is, you know, don't be teaming up with Scientology. It will bite you on the butt. I mean, it's a death wish at this point for your political career. Your opponents will use it against you, as they should, because you should not be supporting a family-destroying human trafficking cult. Simple. Use the Google. Look it up on ChatGPT. Politicians can no longer say, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. I wasn't aware. And Karen Bass herself said, I was aware of the abuses, but not the depth of it. So you were aware of it. That's why but you still spoke at their event. It's BS, and she's getting called out on it now, and she doesn't like it. Hey, Scientology up north. All right, let's look at this next one, because this is when he really goes at her about her Scientology connection. She's just got to be loving this.
Smile. Hey, Karen, are you still a Scientologist, Karen? You gave a speech at the Scientology building. You were praising Scientology. Are you still a Scientologist, Karen? Oh, Zach, remember you said that those projections by Kenneth Mejia were doomsday projections and theatrical analysis?
Now, the deputy mayor here, the LA deputy mayor, Zach, comes up to try and no doubt distract William so he's no longer yelling things at the mayor while she's trying to do whatever it is she's trying to do there. And it gets kind of funny because Zach gets kind of close to William.
analysis. Do you agree? Do you still agree with that? He was proven right. He was proven right. This is my community. I clean up all the time. Are you going to answer the question? Was Kenneth Mejia right about the projections? Was Kenneth Mejia? See how many people? Zach, once again, Zach, are you going to answer the question? You're not going to answer the question. I'm going to ask Karen Bass. Since you don't want to answer the question, I'll make sure your butt. I'll make sure your boss answers it. Right. That was your quote. It's like 8:30 morning. She's here one time. You know why she's here? Because you cut the budget for sanitation. Zach Seidel right here cut the budget for sanitation, cut the budget for street services. Look at you. This smile.
Yeah, that's a real issue over there, cutting the budget for sanitation. And apparently now things are a mess. Who knew? Who knew if you cut sanitation that things might end up dirty? Northern Girl says, the guy reminded me so much of a Scientologist, right? Even the going up and trying to distract William so that he's no longer yelling. Like, you know, this is not William's first rodeo, Deputy Mayor. I can see you coming. Hey, Dusty, good to see you. Now, at one point, this deputy mayor gets really close to William Good. I mean, really close, like intimately close. Listen to this.
Can you stop rubbing your penis on my back? Seriously, you just did. You just did. He's got it on film. You got it on film. Can you back away, Zach? You're being filmed right now by multiple angles, Zach. Please stop touching me. Please stop touching me. Right, Zach? He literally just did it. You're on video. I can't wait to have that posted. Millions of people are going to see you grinding on me. Yes, exactly. Can you stop rubbing your penis on my back? Seriously, you just did.
Oh my gosh. I was like, what is he doing? And I thought it was weird too. Like, why would the deputy mayor be going and trying to do damage control like that? Is there like a PR person or somebody? I don't know. But to go and try to bull bait William Good like that. I mean, how did they think it was going to end? What did the deputy mayor think? He was going to go up to William Good and William would go, oh, you know what? Never mind. Never mind. I'm leaving. I'm packing my stuff up. Like, I don't get it. Yes, Renegade Streets is on fire. I completely agree. I just don't know what they thought was going to happen. Like, what did you think? Now, I don't doubt William's going to make a clip of that. And hopefully he puts it on his Scientology audit channel as well. And it's going to go far and wide. Let's go over to Austin now. And Hitzel was out there in Austin. And yeah, some interesting things went on. And she had, well, you know what? I'm going to show you and then we'll talk about it. This was cool. There were a couple things happening there in Austin.
I'm kind of slacking on chalk. Check this.
But she sees this great chalking there.
This out. Lincoln Park's Emily Armstrong equals active Scientologist. Kids cannot consent at literally search. Yes. We got searched.
Love that. And then also she had with her some support for Cubs Champion. And I think many of you are familiar. Cubs Champion is someone who's been live streaming and protesting Scientology. And then Scientology went at him with this BS wiretapping case. And there was an update done recently on growing up in Scientology where you can see the whole video for that and get the full update from Cubs. But I love that Hitzel did this.
Reasons like this, that Scientology silences their critics.
Yep, she's got a picture of Cubs there representing, and look at her little Davy doll too. I love that. And I think I saw a little gnome as well. Cubs Champion cannot be, I think it was outside any Scientology building and protesting. So I think it's fabulous. Right, Haggis Basher? Nice. I thought so too, that she had his picture there. That was super cool. And that's over in Austin. And you can find Hitzel here on YouTube. Will be linked down below so you can see her whole video because there are actually quite a few really interesting things that went on. Now, one of my favorite things here on YouTube is quickly becoming the conversations had with Pat Harney. in the Welcome Center in Clearwater. You guys, last week, there was a short that Aaron Smith-Levin made talking to Pat Harney about how much time was left on his billion-year contract and how much time might be left on Pat's. And is there a way that they could actually finish these contracts? Well, he came back with actually a really good idea on how their billion-year contracts could actually be done. And they could check some things off the to-do list from L. Ron Hubbard and maybe have an opportunity to move on and have a life. So take a look at this.
Hey, Pat, I have great news. The lawyers figured out how to get us out of these billion-year contracts. Remember when L. Ron Hubbard said that after we finish taking over planet Earth, we're all going to leave our bodies, go off to Target 2, and take over another planet with him? Well, it turns out after we take over Target 2, our contracts are done. Except he never said which planet that was, and he never predicted that Elon Musk would colonize Mars.
Now, here's what's interesting about Pat Harney to me. You notice Pat Harney's not running away. She's not taking off. I don't know why it's different for Pat Harney versus every other Sea Org member at a reception desk. When a phone shows up, they will take off or duck down. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I think this is, let's wake up the Office of Special Affairs because I have some notes for them. Hold on. David Miscavage, who, by the way, you guys, let me move this down for a minute. David Miscavage is dressed because he's going home with me to Hawaii later this week. So if you haven't already seen his Hawaii outfit, it's summer vibes. He's got some cute shorts. He likes to wear them low and show his belly a little bit. He asked that, I even raise this up, but I'm like, no, man, it's not that kind of party. So David Miscavige, wake up your Office of Special Affairs, but without your sunglasses because I don't want to lose them. It's Monday, so we can be loud. Everybody wake up. Oh, yes. Ooh. Okay, so Office of Special Affairs. Here's my notes on this. I kind of feel like even at the Hollywood Testing Center, just let people stay, or at the L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibition. If they're not running around or running off, it's, you're creating a lot of content that way. I guess either way you do it, we're going to watch it and be entertained by it. But it's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me. Yeah, Haggis Basher, I use those to clean my glasses. I need to wash them. And I know there's a certain way you're supposed to wash them, and I can't remember. I'm going to look it up. Anyway, let's go back to this Pat Harney video because I love it.
Mars. So if we can just get Elon Musk to send Tom Cruise to Mars, we can declare Mars as the first Scientology planet. We can declare mission accomplished on Target 2, and our contracts will be done even though Scientology is still failing on Earth. Now, if Tom Cruise can't go, we can send Grant Cardone. Nobody will miss him. And then instead of sitting at this desk for another 999,999,950 years, you can be out of here in as little as 4. So you talk to Tom, you talk to Elon, I'll talk to Grant. I'll be back later this week to discuss next steps. Have a great day.
I think she threatened to call the police at one point. She picked up the phone. Maybe it was just security, but honestly, I'm loving Pat. I really am. I'm finding myself like rooting for her, not rooting for Scientology, but Pat, join us, Pat, join us. Because you can tell she's fed up, mainly with Aaron, I'm sure. But it very much gives when you get called into the principal's office and the principal's like, oh my God, you again. Oh my gosh. That's what it seems like. But it's seriously one of my favorite things to watch. And I hope he keeps it up. And that's right, Northern Girl, Grant Cardone. Nobody will miss him. We can all check the box and don't have to fulfill our billion-year contracts. Pat Harney can go out and have a life and reconnect with her family. She has to have family out there somewhere. Hey, Rika. Okay. Oh, hey, Liz Gale. We were just watching your amazing video about the emotional tone scale. Fabulous, fabulous job there. All right, where am I? Oh, I know where I am. Hold on here. I'm telling you, do I want to talk about this one first or do I want to talk about that one first? Okay, first, let's just talk a little bit about Elizabeth Moss was front and center. Lizzie Moss, Scientologist, Handmaid's Tale. She was in some other stuff. Oh, The Invisible Man. That movie scared me. It really did. Anyways, Elizabeth Moss, if anybody has doubted her dedication to Scientology, look no more. Here she is at L. Ron Hubbard's birthday event that was happening. Let's see here. A year ago, she was pregnant. So this was a year ago. That's her and John Travolta. I wonder if that's her mom, because that looks like the same lady. Might be the same lady next to her. So Elizabeth Moss was out there, hip hip hooray for L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology, along with a whole bunch of other people. These pictures are interesting. There's David Miscavige. Hey, Dave. This is some property that Scientology is buying up. People getting awards. And look at that. Erin Cairo winning the birthday game, the Scientology birthday game. And as you guys know, Erin Cairo heads up Scientology in San Francisco. He runs the Scientology Day organization and also was the head of Barrel Skateboarding. We've talked about him like quite a bit because I find it fascinating that somebody who, once had this very successful business and big YouTube channel, but more importantly, this big community, went and trained under David Miscavige for a couple of years, came back, and then the whole thing started falling apart. It really is a result of Scientology, of trying to apply the insanity of Scientology when it comes to a business or relationships or to be building a community. But here you can see Erin Cairo getting his award there, and then he's got his San Francisco birthday game jacket, because when you win the birthday game, you get that big trophy, but you also get these jackets that are like, I think they're supposed to be, weren't they like jockey jackets? Does anybody remember? Any of my former Scientology friends here, Paralyzed to Paralyzed, do you remember? Wasn't that the design behind it? It's like you're a jockey on a horse in the birthday game. That little satin jacket. I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually wearing them. Yeah, there's a day organization and a nighttime. And during the day, they're called the day organization. Real creative. And the evening, though, is called the foundation org. So evenings and weekends is the foundation org. All right, so that's what's happening there. Erin Cairo showed up. Elizabeth Moss, full-blown Scientologist still. Now, okay, we got to talk about this. This is from Tom DeVock's Substack. You can find it. He's got a subscription, totally worth it, because he was not just a former Scientologist, but a former Sea Org member. And not just a former Sea Org member, but somebody who worked directly with David Miscavige. And he is like dropping the tea all over the place. So in this article, he talks about how Vanilla Sky wasn't the only fantasy happening in 2001. It turns out behind the scenes, David Miscavige was fangirling harder. He was like losing his mind fangirling over Tom Cruise more than like a 13-year-old at a Taylor Swift concert. It was uncomfortably cringy. And I'm so glad that Tom is sharing this story because it is a good one. So being friends with David Miscavige, like Tom Cruise is, I would say being friends with David Miscavige is like being trapped in a fun house where every mirror makes you look like him. And spoiler alert, it's not a glow up. It is not. So DeVock paints a picture of Miscavige using friendships the way I use dry shampoo, frequently, desperately, and with questionable results. But he hits it out of the park because he exposes the whole thing and says Miscavige doesn't actually want friends. He wants trophies, preferably ones that can't outshine him. So naturally, he chose Tom Cruise and then tried to become Tom Cruise, very much giving single white female, but with less eyeliner and way more Scientology. So in December 2001, there was a Vanilla Sky premiere, right? Big Hollywood event. David Miscavige was so excited. He's like, barking orders at Shelley like he's dressing for the Met Gala. Get my tailor. I need a new suit. I need new shoes. The emperor needs new clothes. And he wanted to make it look like they were on a double date because it was going to be Shelley and David Miscavige and Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz. Because nothing screams formal like fake coupling your, your assistance there. This wasn't about Scientology representation in Hollywood. This was David Miscavage's personal Super Bowl, and he needed to look hot, fly, fire, as the Gen Zs say. Like bulletproof van hot is what he was going for. So they sneak into this theater like high schoolers crashing a prom, because, you know, you can't just walk in the front door. Tom Cruise is working the room, you know, being the charming Tom Cruise. Penelope Cruz is on his arm. I will say, I remember thinking they did look like a cute couple, even though I did not want her to get into Scientology. So they're walking around. Penelope is looking radiant, and I can't help but wonder what she thought with what was happening with David Miscavige there. I don't know. I really wish she would talk about it. Maybe one day. So they're working the room. They're doing their thing. Meanwhile, Miscavige is over here like vibrating this neediness, practically waving, notice me. I'm Tom Cruise's best friend. We're total BFFs. And fun fact, Miscavige at the after party was basically every awkward guy at a wedding trying to slide into the cool kids group photo without being asked. So it was super cringe. So fast forward to this garage meetup after the party, right? Tom gives Dave a bro hug, introduces Dave's minions as people. Like these are his people, and clearly wants to be anywhere else, maybe even possibly in another dimension. Miscavige, absolutely not picking up on social cues, starts complimenting Tom's SUV like a desperate used car salesman, because Tom had this decked out SUV. So it was so cringe, and I'm surprised he didn't like pop the hood and suggest an oil change right then and there. Like apparently you could feel the cringe energy. And because life is a sitcom written by the gods, on the ride home, Miscavige absolutely loses it. He apparently did not get the attention that he wanted, that he felt he deserved from Tom Cruise and Tom's people. And then he starts complaining like hell in the car. Penelope's got to go. She didn't even look at me. Tom's SUV sucks. Tom's still a punk. Like these are quotes of what he was saying. And yes, David, clearly you're the real star here. Please tell us again about your bulletproof van. So how embarrassing is that? And yet somehow they still went on to have this crazy bromance. And in this article, Tom DeVock really drops the mic hard, because David Miscavige doesn't do friendship. He does ownership. He collects secrets like their Pokemon cards, except instead of training them, he weaponizes them. And poor Tom Cruise still trapped in that mirrored funhouse as David Miscavige's best friend, not realizing that every time he confesses something, Miscavige is in the corner going, gotcha. And he's putting it in his burn book just in case Tom Cruise leaves sometime. And what blows my mind too is that Tom Cruise doesn't know this, because I can't imagine he would know this and still be hanging around with David Miscavige. But yeah, totally. What a toddler. He absolutely is. It's so cringe and embarrassing. So in the article, DeVock ends it with an open letter to Tom Cruise. And honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking. It's not too late, Tom. You are the power, and you deserve better than being someone's emotional ATM machine. So if anyone out there knows how to get this into Tom's hands, maybe tuck it inside a DVD case for Top Gun Maverick 2, and he'll open that and he can see the truth. But it's definitely worth reading that letter, and check it out. I'm going to link it down below. And I suggest, if you're not already subscribed to his Substack, do. I did. And there's lots of great information. And after reading this, if you ever needed a reminder that cult leadership is basically a high school popularity contest with better suits and worse morals, yeah, congratulations, because it seems like it is. That's how it was with David Miscavige there, fangirling. And this is just one story. I mean, there's so much more I think that he's going to come out with. And I'm sure that if I'm Tom Cruise and I'm reading, come across something like that, which I don't know how he would, but, he's not going to believe it, because this is one of the big reasons why Scientology tries to paint people who are exposing Scientology as being criminals or liars and so on, is to discredit them, to discredit the source of the information, because it's coming out. A lot of it is continuing to come out, and it's embarrassing. And a lot of it is involving David Miscavige. And David Miscavige, I mean, ultimately cares more, in my opinion, more about his own reputation and how he looks than Scientology. Tell me what you guys think about that. Do you think David Miscavige cares more about his own? Let's do an informal poll. Put a 1 in the chat. And if you're on the replay, in the comments, if you think, how should we word this? Put a 1 in the chat if you think David Miscavige is more concerned about his own image than he is Scientology's. And a 2 if you think Scientology comes before. Because based on, especially a lot of these stories from people who were there and witnessed it, everything, in my opinion, is pointing to a 1, which is David Miscavige is more concerned about his own image than he is that of Scientology or even L. Ron Hubbard. Looks like so far a lot of you are agreeing with me. Let's see how this plays out. There's a whole website dedicated to David Miscavige that Scientology does. And what's on it? Video after video of how great David Miscavige is from people that look like they're doing a hostage video over and over and over again. So many of them being released all the time. You just don't see that even in other high control groups and cults to that level. And that's where I'm feeling it. That's why I'm feeling like he cares more about his own image, which is interesting information, because if I were live streaming or protesting Scientology, that's why I love seeing the David Miscavige cutout in Clearwater, because it sounds like if you really want to push his buttons, bring David Miscavige into the equation. Lisa Pete, you're right. In his mind, he is Scientology. You were dead right about that. Debbie with an eye says, David Miscavige is a pick-me boy. I've not heard that before. Pick-me boy. Is that just pick me, pick me? Does it mean something else? You got to tell me. Yeah, you know what? Gotta love it. That's an excellent point, but it tracks, as LRH did this too, in my opinion. I agree with you. I agree with you. Buckled up Buttercup, Kim Young Miscavige. But you're right. LRH did do that too. So I agree with you. I do think that it does track there. So let's talk a bit about the Masterson family. There is a new lengthy article out about the Masterson family and their time in Scientology. And it runs deep, you guys. Look at this. I don't know if all of you knew like just how like how deep it was and how many members of the Masterson family are actually in Scientology. You got to see this. First, let's do the fun part. Let's look at the pictures. So this is in the Daily Mail, right, about Masterson Scientology roots, because he's got his brother, who you might remember from Malcolm in the Middle. So Christopher Masterson, that's him there from Malcolm in the Middle. I remember that show. I remember liking it too. I'm pretty sure I watched that one. Then here are the siblings together. You got Chris, Danny, Alana, and Jordan Masterson, all raised in Scientology. And Alana, you might recognize from The Walking Dead. I think she's done a few seasons of The Walking Dead. So let's see here. Did I want to show any others here? So these are siblings are pictured with their mother, Carol, who is a Scientologist. And as I understand it, managed all of them and even some other Scientologists. And let's see, the siblings are pictured with their mother, Carol, a Scientologist who once lived with the church's clergy named Sea Org in Florida. So this is the stepdad, Joe Rishi, who passed away, sadly. Danny and Christopher's stepfather, Joe Rishi, who is the biological father of Jordan and Alana, previously claimed his children had been brainwashed by Scientology. So there's family disconnection that is running really, really deep in this family. And I think that is worth noting as well, because it's not just even celebrities in Scientology practice Scientology's harmful practice of disconnection. And we see this here. So let's go back. let me go back to this one here, since we're going to be talking about the siblings here. In the early 2000s, the Masterson brothers were TV royalty back then. Danny was the bad boy heartthrob. What was the name? Stephen Hyde in that 70s show. And Christopher was everyone's favorite chaotic older brother in Malcolm in the Middle. Francis was his character's name. It seemed like they had it all, right? Fame, fortune, frosted tips. And they dipped from the spotlight. They swapped acting for DJ booths and looked like they were about to start a band called Spin Control. Both of them actually got into the DJing, which I thought was interesting. But while they were spinning beats and raising families, their younger half siblings, Jordan and Alana, were getting famous as well, starring in The Walking Dead and The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Turns out the real star, though, of the Masterson family wasn't acting. It was Scientology. It is Scientology. Lurking in the background like a stage mom with boundary issues. That's Scientology. The Masterson kids were raised in Scientology. And like I said earlier, their mom, Carol, was like fully into it, still is. She divorced Danny and Chris's dad and married Joe Rishi, a fellow Scientologist and former rugby player. And together, they signed their souls over to the Sea Organization, where signing a $1 billion contract and working 70 hours a week for $47, if you're lucky, is considered spiritual advancement. And at the ages of 9 and 5, Danny and Chris were living in Clearwater, Florida in Sea Org housing. And yeah, the same place where you get rehabilitated if you so much as blink wrong. And surprise, within a year, they popped out Jordan Masterson, ensuring, Scientology's next generation was right on schedule. So they ended up having 2 kids together. And after witnessing punishment programs like the Rehabilitation Project Force, basically, get your mind right cult boot camp, punishment, hard labor, you have to do tons of Scientology confessions and security checking. Joe said, yeah, I'm out. He was done. He and Carol left the Sea Org in 86 and became public members instead. But leaving the Sea Org, as you guys know, it's like breaking up with a narcissist. Just when you think you're free, they start sending your mutual friends weird emails. And Scientology does that. They still do it to this day. When there's someone that they think I'm connected to, they will reach out to that person if they see we're following each other on social media and be like, hey, you got to block Natalie, which I think is so stupid, but like, whatever. So Joe, the stepdad, spent years as a Scientology public person, what we all did, right? Just pouring endless amount of money into Scientology courses and to different Scientology auditing, like tens of thousands a year, while trying to hold together a marriage that was already looking like a bad reality TV show. And by 95, the marriage exploded. Joe lost the faith when it comes to Scientology, which good for him. And predictably, the cult retaliated by labeling him a suppressive person, Scientology's version of a social death sentence. Now, once labeled a suppressive person, Joe's kids, poof, gone, totally disconnected. And he said to himself, I love my kids. Maybe one day I'll bump into them and just say hi. I love you. I'll always be your dad. That's a quote that he said. Truly heartbreaking. And also 100% cult behavior. If Hallmark made a movie about this, it would be called Home for the Holidays. Scientology ruined everything. Absolutely ruined this family. Then in 2020, everything hit the fan because what happened? Danny was accused by 3 women of SA between 2001 and 2003. And this is really when the Scientology clown car rolls up into court. The accusers were all former Scientologists, and their claims that Scientology tried to silence and punish them for reporting Danny. And testimony revealed they were told it wasn't SA or the R word. They were punished for reporting it. And remember, in Scientology, they changed the definitions of words so as they don't get in trouble with the law. The victims were warned not to go to the police because Danny was a high-standing member. And you guys got to remember, in Scientology, it's all about protecting Scientology, protect the group at all costs. They're dead serious about this. And that's how many Scientologists justify their actions, including covering up crimes for Scientologists or for Scientology, because they think that Scientology is the be all end all, that Scientology is what's going to bring a civilization without war, without insanity, where there's just peace. And I keep saying, I don't know, Scientology, how you think you're going to bring that about when you can't get peace in your own house. Like, you don't even have your own house straight. You got your wars going on. You got all kinds of stuff going on, even within Scientology and Scientologists. So the deputy DA, though, was like, he said it plainly, like, no, they were our word for sure. And they were punished for it, and they were retaliated against. And during sentencing, Danny's younger siblings, Jordan and Alana, wrote sob story letters to the judge begging for leniency, painting Danny as a father figure because their real dad, Joe, supposedly abandoned them. So that history really being rewritten, he was declared a suppressive person and they cut ties. Not he abandoned his children, but this is Scientology math. So Joe calls BS. He said his kids lied to help Danny and doubled down, and they were brainwashed by Scientology. Meanwhile, Christopher Masterson wisely stayed silent, probably hiding under a couch somewhere, whispering, "Not my circus, not my cult." But Scientology, of course, tried to spin it every which way that they could. Introducing religion into this trial violated the First Amendment. That's what they want to say. And they keep trying that, but I don't know. It doesn't work, but they keep trying. They tried to say, we don't stop members from calling the police. That's absolutely untrue. That is a bold-faced lie. I myself was told not to call the police after my own essay, which was covered up by Scientology. So that very much is fact. They do that quite often. So before his conviction, Danny gave one of the most unintentionally hilarious Scientology interviews ever, telling Paper Magazine, "In Scientology, there's no belief system. It's like a college for the mind. If that's weird, go F yourself." This is why Scientology doesn't let Scientologists talk about Scientology. I think we have case in point here. In Scientology, there's no belief system. It's like college for the mind. And if you don't like it, go F yourself. I think it's one of many reasons why Scientology, the first rule in Scientology, don't talk about Scientology. No. Keep it all covered up. So, and as you know, with Danny, the jury decided it's weird and illegal, and good luck with that college course from a prison cell, babe, because that's where you are now. So the Masterson saga is basically this masterclass on how Scientology destroys families, protects abusers, and then cries victim when anyone notices. There is a repeated history of this. We see it over and over again. And the real tragedy here is Joe Rishi just wanted to be a dad. His kids grew up thinking loyalty to Scientology meant loyalty to lies. Because in Scientology, we're told, well, sometimes you have to give an acceptable truth. You have to say something people can have that's not so far outside of their reality. So you mean lie. And somewhere in a Hollywood Hills garage, David Miscavage is still probably complaining about how Penelope Cruz didn't make eye contact with him. Danny Masterson is in jail. And I guess we're going to watch and see what happens with the other siblings. But it's a whole roller coaster. I'm going to link that article down below. It is a long one. I kind of give you the cliff notes on it. But it goes deep, those Scientology ties. And I don't think this is the last that we've heard from the Masterson family. I really don't. I don't think so. Gregory says the loophole is what a church tells you is spiritual advice and not admissible. So even if they have that as doctrine, it's not admissible. So they skate. Yeah, that's a great point. It's beyond frustrating. Let's see here. Monica, when is that civilization without war and insanity coming? Exactly. What is that in? It's in the aims of Scientology, right? Isn't it? The aims. In fact, I'm going to see if I can find it quick. The aims of Scientology to create. Okay, here we go. I think I found it. Like I'm going to show you guys, like, this is for real. This is what they put out as these are the aims of Scientology. And I want you to contrast that to what we know and understand about Scientology, right? All the things you know and you have learned about Scientology that we've seen, that we've witnessed, that you have seen for your own eyes. The aims of Scientology per L. Ron Hubbard. This was written in 1965. A civilization without insanity, without criminals, and without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights, and where man is free to rise to greater heights are the aims of Scientology. Yeah, I don't know. Goes on to say, we seek no revolution. We seek only evolution to higher states of being for the individual and for society. We are achieving our aims. Yeah, I don't think so. You guys, Scientology, you might want to update this from 1965 because there's nothing I've seen. I was in Scientology for 35 years after this came out. And I would say it was the opposite. I saw insanity, criminals, and war. And this part where he says, where the able can prosper. Let us not forget, my friends, that in Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard says Scientology is to help the able become more able. So when they're talking about, he says right here, the aims of Scientology where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights. So it's basically, if you have a checkbook, you are able. But if you have a physical handicap and not a lot of money or other disabilities, then Scientology is not for you unless you happen to come from a wealthy family. Then they're down with it. That is just not true at all. And then when he says, and honest beings can have rights, well, who decides who's the honest being? And that's kind of one of the problems with Scientology, because it's always Scientology deciding who is good and who is bad. It's always one source telling you who you can be friends with, who you can't. And that is cult behavior. That is high control, which, keep that in mind. If you guys ever find yourself in a position where people are telling you who you should and you should not talk to, who you should and you should not be friends with, it's a little culty. It's a little culty. So yeah, those are the aims of Scientology. And it's been 65. L. Ron Hubbard said, we are achieving our aims after endless millennia of ignorance about himself, his mind, and the universe. A breakthrough has been made for man. And he says it's the combined truths of 50,000 years of thinking men distilled and amplified by new discoveries about man have made for success. I'm just like, no. Scientology says a lot, but not really a lot going on. And that, even just looking at that with the aims of Scientology, again, I ask the question, if you can't create that within your own organization or even on your street or block Scientology, then how can you create that for the rest of the world? That aims of Scientology came out in 1965. What was that, 60 or so years ago? Somebody double check my math. And it's not happening. You've not gotten any closer. It's still just this propaganda that they hide behind. No, our aims and our goals are this. Yet we see over and over again that what you're actually doing is this over here. And it's super culty. And yep, Jojo Bananas, it is very culty. Even when people, I don't get it. Even like, maybe because I was in Scientology, I'm more turned off by it. I don't understand it. I almost could do a whole nother video on that, because I really don't. When people feel the need to, you should. Anyways, it's a whole not. Maybe I will do a whole nother video about it. I won't go down that rabbit hole right now because there's too many fun question of the day answers to read, which is, if Clearwater asked you for advice, what would you tell them to do about Scientology? Northern Girl says, give them a deadline to do something with their buildings, or they will be deemed eminent domain and used for public use by the city. Brilliant idea. I don't know how many years they need for eminent domain, but I think that's a brilliant idea. I love that. Kim Can Do says, my advice would be to get rid of little Davy, and then all abusive activities, be transparent, and no more children in Scientology ever. Absolutely. They definitely won't get rid of David Miscavage, because it's David Miscavage running everything. And I wonder, even if and when David Miscavage is gone, is just some other cult leader going to rise up and take over Scientology? I don't know. I don't know. Janet Burns says, give David Miscavige an ultimatum. Put legitimate businesses in those buildings. Tell me he has 6 months to do it, or you're going to compulsory compulsory purchase all of them and do it yourselves. I wish they would be more strong-armed about it. Reprise 53 says, property rights are sacred to me, even the rights of detestable groups. Clearwater should arm themselves with all the data they can and use any political pull to get Scientology tax exempt status pulled. I agree. Janet Burns says, tell him to shut up. Tell him to put up or shut up. Make public the video he's shown the council. Start building that hall within 6 months, or the deal's off. Clearwater Council should grow a backbone. And that's what we're hoping. And I'm really looking forward to talking to Brooks Gibbs later on today in just a couple of hours about this. Hermie says, tell David Miscavage to sell those empty buildings within 6 months or risk being confiscated and fined severely. And that does seem to be a popular answer. And maybe that's one that they could consider. Janet says they've let David Miscavage walk all over them for too long. Time to grow up and grow some balls and kick Scientology out of downtown Clearwater. Yes. Susan Goo Grandma says, tell them to tell David Miscavage to pull that corn cob out of his hunkus and he'd feel much better. Okay, what is a hunkus? Is that like the butt or... I don't know. You're giving me misunderstood words, Susan. I might fall asleep now because in Scientology, they believe if you have misunderstood words, you like dove off. Okay. Thank you, Nancy. It is your butt. That's hilarious. Gregory says, hey, let's get a happy birthday for New South Africa 1994. Is that somebody in the chat? Did I miss a birthday? Let's do it. What is the name again? Hold on. Let's get a happy birthday for New South Africa. Oh, South Africa. It's just South Africa? Oh, the country. Okay, it's not a person in the chat's birthday. Let's see. Gregory says, get Elon to launch a spaceship above the Fort Harrison. Cats Hate Cult says, I would tell them to institute a late fee for every building they own downtown that sits empty. Other cities have done that. That's very true. There was that one was it in Connecticut, where Scientology was told you got to pay over $70,000 in property taxes because you've just taken too long. They really need to do that. Natasha says, I will ask the cult to get out and relocate. Yeah, they definitely will not do that. Their heels are dug in. They've put down roots. They don't plan on going anywhere out of Clearwater. And I wonder if, they're not really like getting all these properties and kind of like, what do you call it when you just like kind of like bring all the troops in and, my menopause brain fog is not letting me find an analogy for that. So maybe we'll get back to that. Jersey Jan, yes, eminent domain. Take those properties back. Absolutely. Chuck Ross, good to see you. I remember different little critters on it, or am I thinking of Ruth Mitchell's book? Oh, I'm not sure what that's related to there, but Chuck, I'm so glad to see you. Got to love it. If you were to assist the ex-Scientologists to get their tax exemption removed, have you calculated how much this would boost your land for the council? Oh, as a message for the council. Okay, I get it now. That was in relation to the tone scale. Okay, cool. Let's see. Sharona says, her advice for the city council, at every step of the way, don't trust anything they say. Get everything in writing so it can be indicting. That is wise. And isn't it interesting too that how much little was known and they were ready to sign the street over, or at least 3 of them were? Haggis Basher says, give them back the envelope and money. Stop selling your soul. You are not working with your, and I'm going to assume community is the next word there. Cajun County Travels, taxes on the long unused buildings that are ruining the beautiful area of downtown Clearwater after they're privately owned by cult members and not the cult itself. And I do believe some of them are being taxed. They're not all not being taxed. Some of the properties don't fall under the tax exemption. So they do pay some taxes. I just don't know the exact numbers. But that is wise. Diana, exactly. Listen to the citizens. Just that alone, Clearwater. Listen to the citizens. Hardly anybody. What, did 2 people show up and say like, yeah, maybe this will be a good idea? Northern Girl, private meetings between the little dictator and council should be illegal. Defy the law and face the consequences. Yeah, Run Again says, will the museum include the history of how many operating Thetan level 8s have off themselves? No, but it should. And it is a ridiculous number. 1 is too many, and there's many more than that. Dusty, erect a statue of Feral Cheryl in downtown. Put in a roundabout the statue so everyone has to see it every day. I like that one. Put in a statue of Feral Cheryl. I love that. That's a really good one. Oh, Haggis Basher, DJing gets them closer to public and their victims to prey upon with Danny Masterson and the brother. You know, Haggis Basher, I didn't think about it like that. But now that you mention it, ooh, that's creepy. I wonder if that's why the Masterson brothers got into DJing. Oh, that's crazy. It's Freedom Day today in South Africa. Okay, Gregory, that makes more sense. Well, happy Freedom Day in South Africa. Thank you for sharing that. That's right, Northern Girl, an ode to Feral Cheryl. That would be funny. Sharona says that statue better have Doc Martens. Monica Unknown, David Albritton said he might change his vote in the video if the video plan isn't released by May 1st. Well, that is this Thursday, and we will find out what the deal is. Marlene says Danny's DJ name is so disgusting. Are you saying the name is so disgusting, or so disgusting is the name? I didn't know he had a DJ name. If you know what it is, let me know. Okay, Feral Cheryl is all in on this statue and roundabout. So, Dusty, I think that you're on to something there. Oh, okay. So Nancy's cluing me in that Danny's DJ name is DJ Donkey Punch. DJ Donkey Punch. Okay. That seems, I don't quite get it. I don't even know what that means. Anyways, it's weird. It's bizarre. I hope you guys join me in just under 2 hours. I'm going to be interviewing Brooks Gibbs from Save the Garden. And if you can't catch it live, catch it on the replay. If you all could hit that like button on your way out and subscribe as well, I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, I hope everybody gets out today and has a fabulous cult-free day.